We are live. Cool. I'm going to give us a few minutes for people to like pop on. Right now we have 0 viewers, so maybe I can say some like very tentative and strange things right now since no one's actually watching. Oh, we got 2 viewers. We have 2 viewers now. Hello. Cool. All right. I'll let some more people filter in. We got 5. 5 is great. I bet we can bring some more people on here. Okay, 7 people. I'm going to give it another minute or 2 to watch some more people filter in here, and then we're going to go ahead and get the Penumbra community call started, hosted on behalf of, on the part of Radiant Commons. I'm wearing my Penumbra shirt today, which was actually originally designed by someone from Penumbra Labs, which I think is really cool. So I'm going to give us another second here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks, everyone, for joining on this wonderful May 28th. Cool. All right, I'm going to mute myself so that you all can hear less of the sirens of New York. And they're past. About 20 seconds away, and then we'll go ahead and get started today. Okay. Great. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this week's community call. As you can see, Amber isn't here today. They are taking some very needed time off. And as a result, I'm going to be hosting. So today's call is going to go through a few very quick things, and then some exciting updates, and then letting everyone know what they can anticipate here in the near future. So in order of what those are going to be, what we're going to start out with is we're going to have the team who built the Penumbra Labs, or the Penumbra Explorer called Noctis, up to talk a little bit more about the development of the Explorer and some new features that have been added. Then we'll turn over to Erwan, the CTO of Penumbra Labs, to speak a little bit more about the Liquidity Tournament itself and what people can expect. And then we'll come back to me, and I'll be talking a little bit about a blog post that currently is live on the blog, and you can go and read, but that will be more sincerely pushed out at the end of the call, that refers to specifically a governance post or a governance proposal that just went up on the network. So that governance proposal, just as a heads up before we get into everything else, it is a request to add the Celestia utility token for the network, the TIA token, as an accepted form of alternative gas on the network. It's a very exciting development to see this submitted to the network, considering that like Celestia is, the Celestia token, TIA, is one of the largest additional assets that's held inside of the Penumbra shielded pool. And so there's a aligned incentive here to see that using TIA very natively means that people who are operating inside of the Celestia ecosystem can easily bridge into Penumbra and use TIA as a transaction method. So we'll talk more about that towards the end of the call, but I did want to give a quick promo that if you are a delegator for Penumbra, you can go and vote on this proposal by going to void.vote. I'll have Venom put that up on the screen. It's void.vote to go and vote on this proposal, which is on the Celestia proposal. So I'm going to move ahead to like what the first subject material is going to be for today's call, which is I'm going to invite Sergey up to the call. So I'll wait for Venom to bring Sergey up to the stage, and then Sergey can introduce himself a little bit. Hey, Sergey, how's it going?
Hello, Park. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, as always.
Yeah. Yes, it's always good to see you. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing me to the call. Yeah,
Of course.
excited.
Yeah. So you've been building Noctis, which I have to say is like excellent and it's just such a great piece of technology in the Penumbra ecosystem. You're also like the first person or the first team to be building something like really like pretty revelatory for the Penumbra ecosystem that's going to be used as a part of the core stack. So I'm kind of curious, like, what experience do you all have in the past? You want to give yourself a little bit of an introduction first? I know you've been on these calls before, but there might be some new viewers. So I was going to give you a chance to plug yourself.
Sure. So I'm Sergey, CEO of PK Labs. We're a software development company which have been working on Noctis, Penumbra Blockchain Explorer, and maybe we have a lot of experience working with different ecosystems, building explorers for other chains.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I wanted to share a little bit more about our experience with Penumbra. And I think it's one of the blockchains where we had amazing support from the core team, amazing documentation, which helped us to understand how the protocol works.
That's really cool.
Especially, it's really important when you work with a privacy protocol. So you have to understand how it works, how to get the data, which data is available, which is not, because it's our job to understand this first so we can present it correctly to end users.
So what I'm understanding here is that it's difficult to see private data, right? So you have to like learn how to actually operate with that, which I think that's very funny.
Exactly, and you need to learn, come up with a great solution how to present this data as well, because we're trying to present something which is partially available to people and us as well. So I think it's challenging, but support from the core team allowed us to understand where is the value coming from, how we should surface that value, which is really important. Because without the support from the core team, we would not be able to do that as well, because we're kind of building the front end of the blockchain. So we need to reflect all the details of the blockchain. Yeah. We don't hear you, Park. Sorry, you muted yourself.
Thank you. So I know that you've worked on this a little bit on this for a while now. I'm going to see if I can actually pull it up and share my screen so we can take a look at it. And maybe you can walk us through where things are right now, and then that'll allow us to move into some kind of developments on your side. Do you want to just actually why don't you just share the current state of Noctis?
Yeah.
How does that sound?
I can share my screen and
Sounds good.
tell you more about what we already did and what is coming after that.
Awesome.
So this is Noctis. Maybe I can ask Venom to bring the URL of the website to the screen as well, so people can go and explore themselves. But it's explore.penumbra.zone, so it's easy to find. So this is the homepage of the Blockchain Explorer. What is interesting here is that it's very much aligned with all other ecosystem applications, and that's why we try to create the consistent user experience across different applications, so users don't feel that they switch between different tools, which are not related. But actually, also is the branding that was created by Sam from Radiant. So now we see that this is Noctis, which is related to Penumbra blockchain. And on the previous call, which I attended some time ago, we shared the first version where we added tracking of blocks and transactions here on the main screen, and we have different sections for that. But it was just the first step, and now we developed the IBC tracking, which is a very exciting feature, and you can see it here in the navigation.
So very quickly, there's a lot of people who may not actually necessarily understand what IBC is, just in case, right? So do you want to maybe explain a little bit very quickly, like what is IBC and how does it relate to Penumbra? And I can also like offer more background there.
Sure. I think IBC is one of the important features that we have in Penumbra, because it's kind of like, so Penumbra is a blockchain which has its own chain, blocks, transactions, and all these features that we like. But in order to get into the Penumbra, you need a connection with other chains. So you can do on-chain transactions and bring your assets on-chain. And IBC is kind of a network of, it's like a protocol, which you can think like a road, network of roads between Penumbra and other chains.
Yeah, totally.
And it helps people to move from one planet, a Cosmos planet or other planets as well, to Penumbra. That's how I try to explain to people what is IBC.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, one thing that I always like to bring up when it comes to Penumbra is that like the IBC transaction into Penumbra is actually where the privacy starts, right? Like the moment the transaction comes into Penumbra, like that's the moment at which like suddenly your assets are private, because like that's like right where things begin. So that this for me is the reason I think that the IBC token the IBC protocol is so cool, is because like it actually acts as like the bridge to privacy for Penumbra. So please tell us more about this page.
Yes. So here on this page we can see the overview of all the chains or all other places which are connected to Penumbra. So these are all the chains which, if you have any assets on these chains, you can bridge them through IBC to Penumbra. And you can see here that there are Osmosis, Noble, Cosmos, etc. And there are also, what is interesting is that IBC is a permissionless protocol, so anyone can connect to Penumbra. So that's why we see some expired clients which were created some time ago and people didn't use them. So we try to show everything, so people who are developing any connections, any new chains, they can connect to Penumbra and bridge their assets here. So yes, this is the overview page. I think one of the most important page for many users to get the understanding which chains are connected, when the latest transaction happened, how many transactions happened for each chain, so you can understand which chain is more or less active. And here we can see that Osmosis is the leader in this list, which means that a lot of people are bridging assets to Penumbra and back to Osmosis when they want to unshell them. This is, I think, the most important part of this screen. Then if we go to any chains page here, we can see a little bit more details, which are relevant both for technical people and for regular users. Here we can see the channel, Penumbra channel, which is connected to Osmosis channel, which is important more for technical people developing these connections. And we can see all the transactions which happened in Penumbra in relation, which are related to this channel and the chain as well. And we can see that, for example, 57 seconds ago, someone, if I click on this transaction, actually bridged 100 Osmo to, actually withdrew 100 Osmo from Penumbra to Osmo. So, and this is very useful to understand what's going here. Or if we click to this transaction, we can see that someone
I think that's the withdrawal.
Yes, that's the withdrawal.
That's interesting.
Withdrew 100 Osmo.
Well, it's interesting because I kind of wonder, okay, so obviously we can't tell who's controlling it from inside of the Penumbra chain itself. But it is kind of funny because like if we look at this, like this transaction is a withdrawal of 100, and then there's another transaction of 100 inbound, right? Like someone might not be operating with the best OPSEC right now. But regardless of that fact, you actually can't identify it on the Penumbra side, right? You can see that someone in Penumbra sent assets out of Penumbra, and you can see that a specific address sent assets into Penumbra, but you can't actually like connect the idea that these are two, this is the same party, because Penumbra specifically makes that a quality of the network. It's not possible to see like the connection between those two. So I think this is a very cool feature. I also like, I love how this page outlines what's actually not visible, right? Like you can't actually see the action, many of the actions that are in there. so like, for example, the memo field, right, is only visible by people who transact between one another. So if you send like a transaction inside of Penumbra to someone else, you can leave a memo field, but you can't actually see it from the outside, which is very different from other chains. So I'm curious, it feels like with an Explorer, many people like to use an Explorer as a way of just like understanding whether or not their transaction is actually settled, which you can do here, right? You can show people that a transaction actually happened on the network. If it's inside the network, like a swap or something like that, you obviously can't identify who did it. You can show that the transaction happened, or if it's a transaction between people, same thing. If you were like, what are some deeper features to how it is that Noctis works? Like, is it also serve developers, and how would they be able to engage with this?
Yes, that's a really good question. And we actually, as also a development team working with Penumbra,
Yeah.
we use Noctis a lot because there is an interesting feature which is called RawJSON, which is helpful for developers building something here, where you can actually see all the data which is generated by the protocol
All the visible
and
data, right?
all the visible data.
Yeah.
Yes, you can also see some encrypted data here, but you can see that it's encrypted. So this helps you as a developer to uh, get all the data in a human readable format. You can copy the JSON, you can inspect in your editor, and this saves a lot of time because otherwise you had to go really deep into the protocol itself, use different tools, and combine all the data because it's aggregated. So here we have the transaction view, which is coming more from the Penumbra side. And we have also list of events which are generated by consensus part of the protocol, which is similar to other Cosmos protocols. That's why if you are familiar with that, you can see that like there are events here with different attributes, etc. And this is very useful if you're developing anything on top of Penumbra.
Very cool. Yeah, so I guess what like you've learned, I bet, a ton about Penumbra as a private chain. So like at this point, as someone who did work on explorers for other chains, what would you say? Would you say that like how would you say it's been to use private data as a developer so far and like develop this product around a Penumbra and like as a useful tool for both developers and users?
I think Blockchain Explorer is a really useful tool for privacy chains because it allows users to understand what is actually publicly available and what is not. So it's
Mhm.
not like everything is encrypted. It's not true because there are some things which are available and it's important to know them because they help to understand how the protocol works without sharing any user private data, which is on
Right.
purpose encrypted. And this gives you a better feeling because if you think that nothing is available, then you don't have maybe enough trust in the system. But
Mhm.
here you can see that when you make a transaction, everyone outside of the system, they can know that transaction happened, which is good for a receiver of the transaction for other people, but no one can see all these fields. And this is, I think, very important for everyone to
Absolutely.
understand.
Yeah, it really stands out to me specifically that the work that went into this really prioritized like being able to use it as a part of your experience of building with Penumbra, which is like where I would expect that things are moving with Penumbra as a network itself, and specifically, uh, what really stands out to me about y'all's experience is that like you really have a deep understanding now of how Penumbra works, right? And like it turns out that like you can actually, as you mentioned, have a network that has useful data available for people to use and um, you know um, create inferences out of to draw conclusions about the network without engaging with the compromise of revealing user data like you do on every other network where like if you're holding an account on a Cosmos chain, on an Ethereum chain, like L2, anywhere like that, like you can be labeled and tracked constantly. right? Like your entire graph of transactions from like the wallet that you use the most is like completely linkable. So your most embarrassing NFT to your like worst loss can all be tracked back to the network of interrelating accounts. But with Penumbra, like only the useful data is visible, right? So like I think it's you've done a great job with this Explorer of revealing that. And it's been very cool to watch you all develop. And I'm excited to see what else you might develop in the future. Once you feel like you're past the point of building this particular Explorer.
So maybe I can talk a little bit about features that we plan to build for Noctis right now.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting because we're actually working hard on a set of other features which are very important for the whole ecosystem. First one is we want to add all the validator information here. And I think it will be available maybe in 2 weeks approximately. We see how it goes. Where you can see all the data, which is all the list of all the validators, related transactions, and different parameters. Something which you can see right now on Penumbra today, which is a community build tool. And now we want to kind of bring all the important information into one interface, which is the Blockchain Explorer. This is one exciting feature we're working on. The next one is the text feature, where we want to add a little bit more information which is not available fully on Veil, which is we want to surface executions, batch executions, and help people to understand how actually Penumbra text works. And the second one, we want to show the list of all the liquidity positions opened by all the users, because in Veil right now you can see only your positions, but we want to show the full size of the liquidity of the list of the liquidity positions in the pool, which is also interesting for analytical purpose for users. And yeah, do you want to ask a question?
No. It just seems to continue reinforcing this trend of making sure that like, useful data is available to people so that they can like create inferences and understand things about the network. Meaning there's not actually a trade-off in ensuring that users themselves have the privacy that they deserve when using the system.
Exactly, yes. And this is where we are focused on. And what we also try to do, we try to complement all other tools available in the ecosystem, like Tail, Prax, and display something which is not relevant maybe to those platforms, those apps, and we can show it here. So users have like 360 overview of all the data which they might need for different use cases.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love to see it. I saw like a little comment pop up there. I know that there's a number of other features you're adding. I wonder if there's like some small quality of life ones that we can have as well. Like maybe we'll eventually display the total assets in the shielded pool on here, even though it's also shown in some other places on Penumbra. So I'm excited to see you all continue to evolve this. And who knows, like I said, maybe develop some other things in the Penumbra ecosystem that are associated with the chain itself. So yeah.
Yes. We have a pretty big backlog, and thanks to the community feedback, we actually collected a lot of interesting ideas in Discord, and X, where we shared different surveys. And for example, for this screen, we're planning to add a shielded, unshielded volume, which was requested by community members as well, and a few other different metrics which will help to better understand what is going in IBC. So yeah, a lot of work is planned. We're moving step by step, trying to work iteratively. So we ship a feature which has some information first, and then we try to improve.
And then that way you can get more specific.
Yes, and what is also important is that we really value any feedback that we can collect from users. So we encourage everyone to use Discord as a channel where you can share any feedback that you have, ask us any questions. We're always there and happy to share to answer to all the questions. And also, if you feel that Discord maybe is not the right place for you to do, you can also reach out to us by email here, and we will also respond very quickly and discuss any ideas that you have.
Yeah, it's great too to hear that you've adopted the same like philosophy that seems very central to the Penumbra ecosystem, which is like the users are a very integral part of the experience of using the chain. You and I know the Penumbra Labs team both make very liberal use of the beta program that we, like Radiant Commons, put in place. And it's good to hear that that's been hugely beneficial to you to be able to actually like continue building on what it is that you've made.
Exactly. And I think this is the right way to build applications. And I feel that in blockchain space, not all teams are using this approach. That's why some products, sometimes they don't find product market fit. They don't have enough users, etc. And we really try to focus on what is important for users, because at the end of the day, this is the audience which will use the product. So we want everyone to
So what I'm hearing from you is that you're actually building on the basis of the users themselves, right? Like rather than like speculating on what you think a user might want, you're actually talking to them. And I think you're right. This is very much like a thing that happens in like very generally in crypto, where people build things because they're like, oh, well, we think that a user will do this, and then it goes out into the wild, and everyone's like, that's not what we would ever do, you know. So yeah, Sergey, I really appreciate you being available for this call. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Erwan now so that we can talk a little bit more about the Liquidity Tournament, and then I'll speak on the last subject, which is like speaking about gas on the network. So thank you so much, Sergey. Really appreciate you coming.
Amazing, yeah.
Got cut off, but that's okay. He's over there giving us a good thumbs up in the waiting room. Sorry about that, Sergey, but thanks for joining. Obviously, if you want to stick around, please stick around. If you need to go, please do go. So, Erwan, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
It's good to see you. It's good to hear from you. So what I understand is you're going to be talking a little bit about the Liquidity Tournament and how things have been moving, and then also about some significant progress that happened with the wallet extension, the wallet for Penumbra.
Yeah, happy to generally answer questions about it. For context, for those of us who have paged out the details, LQT, like we call it internally at Labs, is a software upgrade that we wrote the past few months, and it is a protocol mechanism to incentivize, to allow the protocol to subsidize its price discovery. So what I mean by that is all exchanges, centralized or decentralized, typically have in one form or another a mechanism that is either neutral or proprietary, or in the case of an exchange, a private, that lets them subsidize liquidity on their different trading pairs. And in the case of a centralized exchange, this will take the form of a deal with a market maker or what have you. In the case of a decentralized exchange, well, in some cases, as we're learning, it can also be the case that you have backroom deals. But typically, the sort of more DeFi way to go about this is to sprinkle rewards on certain trading pairs. And the quintessential example of this, for example, Uniswap to this day still has some rewards. It notably launched without them, but it is pretty common. Penumbra doesn't have any mechanism like this, which means that until now, all the liquidity that was on the books was only profitable or not profitable, depending on the volume that actually occurred on the DEX and the spread that those market makers were charging. However, it is important to have, as a protocol affordance, a mechanism so that the community at large can decide to turn on rewards for certain pairs. And LQT basically is software that allows the protocol and the community to do this. And it is split in two parts. There's a part that is leveraged by delegators, and another part that is directly linked to liquidity providing. So the delegators vote every epoch on a certain number of assets that they want to be part of the program for the epoch. An epoch is just a collection of blocks. So delegators, for example, can nominate USDC or Osmo or TIA or any assets they want. If an asset passes above a certain threshold, that asset is part of the liquidity tournament, and any volume that occurs on the or native token pair to that asset will start being the volume will be metered. So we will track, the protocol tracks the amount of volume that occurs per liquidity position, and at the end of the epoch, looking back on the volume that occurred, rewards will be proportionate to each LP, proportionate to the amount of volume they've grossed. And so there are like two big parts. The delegators decide where the community rewards go, and liquidity providers, they compete with one another to get the most volume on the selected trading pairs, and they get rewarded proportional to the amount of volume they get. So what the natural question is, what makes a liquidity position have more or less volume than another? Well, the answer to this question is that if you will have more or less volume based on whether you quote the best possible price or not. So if you open a liquidity position that is far away from the current mid price, it has very low chances of being ever executed against. In that case, its volume will be low. Likewise, if you decide to put up a very competitive position, one that is very close or even better than the current mid price, any volume that occurs at that block will most certainly hit your position. In that case, your score will increase, and at the end of the epoch, you will be able to claim a greater share of the rewards.
That's very exciting, actually. We got Sergey back up here, I think, by mistake. Yeah, that's very exciting, actually. So what I'm understanding is that like the introduction of the liquidity tournament, which we have talked about on other calls, obviously, but like it's good to like finally hear. It acts as a mechanism to bring some very protocol-based, organic and native incentives to providing liquidity to the network that are not the product of just kind of pumping the network up in terms of its overall volume, and instead using issuance or not issuance, not using issuance either, right? Specifically not using issuance to create this incentive. So what this sounds like to me, I mean, I've been around the Cosmos ecosystem for a long time, and obviously community pools are, kind of a joke as a slush fund for most chains. It's really cool to hear that part of the design is specifically to prioritize ensuring that like the community gets to establish a set of incentives for bringing active use to the network itself.
Yeah, from a software point of view, when we designed and architected this, we were very attentive to building a software mechanism that was efficient, so that every unit of rewards that goes into the system finds a matching amount of liquidity as a way to, like the more liquidity there is in the protocol, the more the protocol is useful and the happier the users. So we're very attentive to make sure that every unit of reward creates a corresponding or more unit of liquidity into the protocol. And so there are like, I think, two also like somewhat different things about LQT compared to other sort of like protocol level incentive mechanisms. The first one is LQT works, and this is a feature of the DEX. The way the Penumbra DEX works is that every block, different swap intents are aggregated into a single batch. that is then piped into the DEX, and a big swap occurs against the DEX. And this swap is broken down into many different routes that are going to take advantage of the best liquidity available, not just on the single pair, single hop that you're trading on. So in the case, for example, of, I don't know, USDC to TIA, you're not just going to absorb the liquidity on that local pair, but you're also going to, the DEX is also going to make sure that you get optimal global execution. So if there's liquidity between USDC to BTC to TIA, it's going to take advantage of that. And this has a very, very nice effect if you're building a protocol level open reward mechanism for LPs, is that the enemy in designing those extensions is you want to prevent wash trading. And wash trading is not just wasteful, it's also fraud. But it's really bad if, this is, I think, kind of like what we learned with, well, I don't want to name names necessarily, but there's one famous perps protocol that, suffered from that a lot. And the resulting effect is that the protocol bleeds rewards and the liquidity isn't even that good as a result. So you want to defend against wash trading. Wash trading is when liquidity providers trade against their own positions. And this is, it would be bad if they were capable of gaming the system in that way, because it would mean that for every unit of rewards the protocol puts up to be earned, it would procure very little liquidity. So we're very, very careful to design a system against that. And it turns out that the way the Penumbra market structure already works made that somewhat easy. It made that easy because trades are batched together. So the only way a liquidity position can guarantee it's going to be executed against is by quoting the best possible price for the entire block. But if it does that, if an LP is trying to rush trade, what that means is they have to, 1, commit inventory for the entirety of the block. Commit that inventory and price it at the best possible price available. And 3, they have no control over who's going to execute against their position. And those 3 features, committing inventory for a long time, pricing it at the best possible price, and not controlling execution, those are the essential archetype of what a good market maker does. So the beauty of that mechanism is that it's going to force people who want to cheat into providing liquidity honestly. Another way to put it is that wash trading is not really a concern here because of the way things are architected. So, yeah. And on the delegator side, it is pretty exciting because there's an open feedback loop for people to just pick assets they find useful. And the people who are going to pick assets they find useful are people who have skin in the game and have committed native token and staked native token. And ultimately, they're the ultimate beneficiaries of who decides to, the ultimate engineers of who decides to, of who gets rewards, which pairs get rewards or not. So at a high level, it's pretty exciting. It doesn't just level the playing field between the Penumbra DEX and other protocol. It's also a way for, in a sense, the DEX to launch itself and to attract a substrate of liquidity that make the entire protocol more useful. This is the entire product theory around Penumbra as a concept is you can't just have a shielded pool. I mean, it might work, a multi-asset shielded pool. You really want to lean onto the multiplier that a DEX is. And a DEX lets you swap between tokens, so it really amplifies and magnifies how useful a shielded pool is. Because now you can deposit dollars and withdraw, whatever asset you want, TIA or BTC or ETH.
Mm-hmm. So is my understanding is correct here that the privacy model of Penumbra actually also benefits from transactions themselves? So this method of, or this new piece of the stack contributes even more to ensuring that the privacy model is robust. Is that right?
Sorry, what was the question again? Sorry.
So my understanding of like Penumbra's privacy model is that it functions on the basis of activity, right? It's not just like, oh, we've got a bunch of assets in here and they're sitting here at rest, and so as a result, like that's great, and now all of them are private, because they're like, it's actually, the benefit comes from the fact that there's activity on the network. And so when you have an engine that encourages activity on the network itself and provides incentives for being a source, that reinforces the privacy model itself.
So the more activity, the better. However, like it is important to know that even if there's no activity at the periphery of Penumbra, everything that happens inside the shielded pool is private, and like you cannot single it out really. So if you suppose Penumbra exists in a vacuum and you decide to transfer tokens from you to me or like someone else, there's no side channels about how much you're transferring, what you're transferring. All of that is opaque. Where activity really is an amplifier is for interactions with the rest of the world, and for interactions with any economic activity that crosses the shielded pool boundary. So, for example, if you're going to withdraw to a different protocol to borrow money or what have you, and then come back, but you're the only user of Penumbra, then yes, you can someone can like associate that transport activity to you. So it is pretty, like all else equal, it is really good that the DEX and Penumbra is used a lot, because that provides an umbrella of activity for everyone that crosses that boundary. Everything happening inside the shielded pool is end-to-end private, but it's always good to have activity for the periphery and when you exit the shielded pool to do something else and come back to put your assets at rest.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly exciting to hear this development, right? And I know that right now it's going through testing. Is that right? So it's kind of like so. And I was going to ask something before that. So where did this idea come from? Right? This was like, as far as I understand it, this was submitted in the Penumbra forum.
Yeah.
Right? Or not as I understand it. This was originally posted in the Penumbra forum.
Yeah. So we have been discussing it for a while. The idea of having having a protocol extension that can reward liquidity providers has been in the back of point of view and architecture point of view for a while, because it has a centralized or like decentralized counterpart that's pretty standard. However, like we really wanted to make it an open mechanism. So design something that is transparent, legible, that everyone can participate into, and two, design it the right way so that it doesn't callously create, like those sort of like weird, if you have a bad incentive mechanism, it can have downstream effects on the entire economy of the chain.
Well, specifically, it's not sustainable, right? That's like kind of what you're.
Exactly. It's not sustainable, or like if it can be captured, it might be sustainable, but the commonwealth of Penumbra users pay an exorbitant price to just have like a trivial amount of liquidity. So you really have to like do it right, so to speak. But it's been in the back of our mind for a while. So we started. We had a design in December that we were just like kind of jamming on, and then we posted a forum post. I think in January, just outlining the overall mechanism. So now it's in testing. We are basically testing it in. So in the protocol candidate release is done. So a lot of our efforts have been focused around sort of like the product instantiation of this in Veil. Veil is the trading interface that Penumbra Labs built. So there's different mechanics of integrations and so on. But yeah, like it is in a pretty advanced state at this point. From a software point of view, it's stable, and we've war gamed different scenarios about how to harden the system a little bit, and all of those tests came out positive. Wargaming can take many forms. Like, for example, you sit someone in a room, take a whiteboard, and just say, hey, break this. Another way to do it is to make extraordinary claims at mechanism design conferences, which I've played doing that. So a week or 2 weeks ago, there was this DeFi conference in New York City, where that is very popular among the academic and R&D side of the industry. And I just said, hey, I think this is a legit mechanism. Come break it. So it can take different forms, but yeah, we feel pretty good about the state of the software and the mechanism itself.
That's awesome. So what you're kind of saying here is that we're a few steps away potentially for seeing this release candidate and the user interface that could work with it proposed for activation on Penumbra itself.
Yeah. So the process there is, we at Labs we write software and publish it. We do it. We're fully aware that there's an important instantiation of our work in the wild in production called Penumbra-1. So we're going to create a pre-release artifact of what we think is production-ready software, but ultimately it will be up to the community to vote on whether they want it or not, and vote on whether they want to adopt it in their running software.
The people listening right now, I hope you're hearing that you could be a part of deciding whether or not this is a part of Penumbra. So if you've been listening along, and this is a good chance to, you remember, go to this website when that proposal is live. So heading to void.vote, that could change. We'll let you know. But as a place to vote on proposals that are then coming up on the network. So in the interest of time, Erwan, I appreciate you going into detail about the Liquidity Tournament and the design that you all put together around it. I'm very excited as well. I think probably in a couple weeks, you could show it to people potentially ahead of it being proposed. I think that'd be very cool to see.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we didn't get to talking about the Prax wallet too much, but I did want to just take a quick note here and let everyone know, right? A recent version of the Prax wallet was moved through the same beta program that Sergey was talking about earlier last week to be tested, and then was cut live. And the reason this is a really important development for Penumbra is that it has drastically improved the experience of using the wallet extension itself. So if you're out there and you have a memory of Penumbra being difficult to use from the perspective of interacting through the browser and through the use of the Prax wallet, the Penumbra Labs team has also done a tremendous amount of work improving the Prax wallet. And as I understand it, it has a lot of really big plans potentially for Prax to continue getting better with time. So if you have been using the Prax wallet up to this point, or if you fell off at some point because you're this is too difficult, please re-engage with it and go ahead and use it, because it is 1,000 times better based on the work that Penumbra Labs has done there and what has been integrated into the product itself. So thanks so much for being on the call, Erwan. I'm going to go ahead and have you taken off stage, and we can talk about the last little subject here. So thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I do have one last subject that we want to touch on, which is the fact that there is a proposal up in the Penumbra on the Penumbra chain on chain itself, and you can go to void.vote, which I mentioned a few times throughout this call, to vote on this if you're a delegator, and if you're a validator as well. Please do go and vote on this. So the purpose of this proposal is fundamentally connected to the fact that the network accepts alternative kinds of assets as accepted gas tokens on the network. And there's some very cool mechanics about how this works. There's actually a blog post that's about to go up on the Penumbra site itself that you can go and read to better understand it. But most networks will only allow you to pay fees on the network in the form of the token that's local to the chain, right? And the logic behind this probably makes some sense, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna go and make people buy my token before they can use my product, and that way you get like all these little tiny sequential purchases. But most of the time, people are just also trying to buy like only as much as they can get to actually use the chain itself. And Penumbra, from a design perspective, was as an ecosystem, was just like that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't actually help users, because there's a user experience trade-off that's engaged with when that happens. And that user experience trade-off is that when you come to a network, if you can't immediately use it, like what's even the point, right? So with Penumbra, when the network launched, and many of you who already use Penumbra know this, you can immediately use if you hold but also USDC, Atom, and the Osmo token, which is representative of their respective networks, right? USDC is it's the Noble instantiation that comes in over IBC, the Osmosis token itself, and the Atom token, which is like the network, the token native to the Cosmos Hub and the wider IBC ecosystem. But the way this works is like in further detail on the blog post itself, which you all can go off and read in your own time. But the grand benefit to understand here is that the Penumbra as a network, really stressed desiring that the token is not just like an index of how people feel about the chain, right? Because that has a lot of negative side effects. But Penumbra, the token is specifically useful to the chain. As Erwan was talking about, as he was speaking about the Liquidity Tournament, having the network utilize the token as a vector across which transactions are executed is extremely useful to the token itself. But more importantly, at the gas level, right, when transactions execute on Penumbra, if you submit a transaction intent or a swap intent, or any sort of transaction on the network, the fees that you pay to the network can be in any of the tokens that are authorized in addition to So the token itself is the lowest price object for you to execute transactions against. And then these alternative fee tokens are priced slightly higher than that, which allows people to come into the network and immediately start transacting without any sort of trade-offs. And the proposal that's up in the governance forum right now, that was discussed in the forum itself and now is up for voting, is about adding an additional token to that, and it is the token of the Celestia ecosystem. So we're very excited about this in particular because it shows that there's an interest in having the TIA token as sort of something that you could come into the network of Penumbra and immediately start using without having to hold the token. Of course, what we hope is that if you're using Penumbra a lot, there's going to be a point at which you're going to realize that not using the token, which is priced at the lowest amount, is going to require you to some degree to want to save some money. So you'll probably trade into the token or get some tokens in some way so that you can save money on transaction costs. But crucially to understanding all of this is that the user is the focus in Penumbra. It's really the point of how Penumbra is being built across the software and across the protocol stack, so that the token is actually also useful to the user, not just as a sentimental index of whether or not the chain is useful, but specifically as a part of how the mechanism design for Penumbra as a network functions. So again, very excited to see that this proposal was submitted, and I'm deeply of the hopes that it'll pass. We would love to see validators and delegators voting on it. As a reminder, if you did not delegate prior to the submission of this proposal, which went up sometime, I think of just under 24 hours ago, you won't be able to vote in this proposal. But if you were delegating your before the proposal went live, meaning before yesterday, about 24 hours ago or 25 hours ago, you are able to vote on the proposal. And so this includes both validators and delegators. Delegators have to vote using void.vote. You connect your wallet and you go and you vote on the proposal, and you can decide whether or not you think it should pass. And then validators do so through the command line as an operator on the network. We hope that delegators trust the validators enough to make decisions on their behalf. So all to say here, if you want to better understand how gas on the network itself works, there is this new post that you'll be able to see on the Penumbra blog, which you can find at blog.penumbra.zone. I'm going to go ahead and put that here in the on screen so people can go to it. And this post is actually live right now, so you can go to this link and you can go to the most recent post and read it. And there will be a post on X following the kind of tying up the end of this community call, where you can learn just using the tweet itself as well, and then go and dig into further detail as you might want to. So those are kind of the top level things that we wanted to talk to you today. I really want to thank Sergey and the PK Labs team for all their work on Noctis. It's definitely revealed that which can be revealed on the network. And then as well to the Penumbra Labs team and to Erwan specifically for giving us some detail about these very exciting software developments that might be on the horizon for Penumbra that offer more incentives around the utility of the token itself. Because again, the token is kind of like part of the gravitational center of how Penumbra functions. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the call. This is, again, a reminder for those of you who have delegated on the network prior to the most recent proposal to go and vote on the most recent proposal that just went up on the network a little over 24 hours ago. There are about 23 hours that remain in this period, and the proposal needs about 11 million in order to pass, which is about quorum for the network should be about 40% of the amount of staked tokens on the network. So we hope to see you all closing out your votes as that time comes to a close, whether you're a validator or a delegator. And if you're a delegator, please do use void.vote to go ahead and submit your vote so that we can get the Celestia ecosystem engaging in this really positive user experience that is Penumbra. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. Thank you all so much for watching, all 362 of you who dropped in today. And we hope to, we will continue to submit more information for you all to learn about how Penumbra functions going into the future. So I appreciate all of you joining us. See you next time.